All right, good afternoon. As I started out to state, we're here to learn and listen, and I'm going to go ahead and activate my screen here and give you a chance to see the presentation, and we'll go from there. Hang on just a minute. Let me share my screen. All right, I assume you can hopefully see that.
Yes. Yes.
All right, we're good. All right. Again, what I do for a living is capacity building for nonprofits and faith-based organizations. Usually that's board development, strategic planning, and fundraising. Today is just an introductory session about major gifts fundraising. And for those of you on the call, you may be asking yourself, what's this got to do with me? And I think Ms. Tucker did a nice job at the very beginning. As we raise more resources for the schools, then there's an opportunity for you all to do more for the kids. So at the end of the day, this is all about the kids and those of you that serve those children day in and day out, and obviously the families in the community that you get to impact. I'm going to just briefly cover, if I may here, one of two approaches to fundraising, and that's what we're going to really focus on today. The first one I want to mention is something that you would know. You're getting them in the mail more and more as we approach the end of the year. That's direct mail pieces appealing for you to donate $25, $50, $250 to help out, and you fill in the blank. They're all over the region in which you live, and you may also get solicitations via email, maybe the telephone at night, at dinner time. We're all used to these, and in events potentially, even COVID, while it's impacted those, we still see organizations that are using this approach. It's really about highlighting who you all are as a Child Development Center Incorporated, what we've accomplished, the impact that we have. But one of the challenges with this approach to fundraising is it's hard to stand out in the crowd. There's lots of other nonprofits, obviously, in the if you will, Danville region. And the other piece of this, it's very transactional, one and done. I gave you my $25 this year, I'll see you next year. Not necessarily bad or wrong if you're making money this way and raising money for your organization, but it has its limitations. Some of the problems that we're seeing happen with this approach to fundraising is the level of skepticism. We're all aware of scams and things in particular, both on the phone, in the mail, and especially email. And there's an issue around credibility and visibility. So who's Just Kids? What's the Legacy Christian Academy? And so that's part of the challenge with this approach. And then lastly, it's really about selling the organization, and something that you all probably on this call really find distasteful, because it feels like it's something we want from you. As a donor once said to me, I feel like this nonprofit treats me like an ATM machine. And so this is not the approach that we want to take. This is not the direction that we want to go. But I did want to highlight this first of two methods to fundraising to set the stage for the second approach that we're going to be talking about and really driving home in the coming weeks. And as we roll into 2022, we'll be ramping up for some really exciting events happening in late March, and you'll hear more about that later. The second approach to fundraising, donor-driven, permission-based, it's individualized. It really focuses on my personal philanthropic goals, the practicing of my faith in if you will, in Danville, or the continuum of a family. You know, my granddad, my dad, and we teach it to our kids. The whole family has a tradition of giving back and helping the community. And that's part of what this approach is about. It's about earning the right. And if I may use this analogy, having a donor fall in love with CDC. And again, I'm using CDC here to both incorporate Just Kids and Legacy Christian Academy. We've got both, if you will, under this overarching umbrella, and I'm calling that CDC throughout the rest of this presentation. It's about people falling in love, just like you all are as regular, if you will, employees and volunteers that show up every day to help those kids. It's about getting a donor to that. It moves beyond this one and done sort of transactional approach and moves towards lifelong investors. And really, this is in the kind of the two that are highlighted in red. This is a reversal of this. This is what we want for you, the donor, not from you. This is what we want for you. So two different approaches here, technique-driven, donor-driven. And I will pause for just a moment. David, you didn't know this was coming right now, but is there something, David, that you would say that I need to expand on here in explaining these two approaches? Any other questions you might have of me right now before I move on?
I think we're good. I think if you could just explain more, maybe how the staff can be involved with it and what it means to them.
Absolutely. All right, fair enough. And those of you that are there, and I'm looking at you as you're looking at me, please raise your hand if you like asking people for money. That makes you normal, by the way, so I just want to let you know that. Let me move into this in a little more detail, but the key thing I'll leave you with are those two words in red on the screen. It's not what we want from the donor, it's what we want for the donor. And this is not just a manipulation and play on words, it's the underlying philosophy of this entire donor-driven approach to fundraising. Now, let me give you a little sample of something because it may not enter your mind. Okay, and it's a world in which probably none of us live in, and those individuals in your community have a lot of money, high net worth, if you will. So, and I've got Maria chiming in and joining us on the call. Hello, Maria. So what is a donor looking for? They know the value of early childhood education, but they don't have the time, the energy, the resources, the expertise to go out and start a school, if you will. But here's an example of what I mean about being donor driven. Now, this is just a statement that I've created. Okay, it does not replace your mission and values and vision statements, but notice CDC gives caring community champions and generous donors the organization they desire to provide early childhood education programs with a focus on, and this should sound familiar because it's from your website. So this makes the donor a primary focus as well. So it's just understanding from a donor's point of view, they have money that the Lord calls them to give away every year. Their accountant calls them to give away every year. Their family tradition causes them to give away. Who are they going to give it to? What difference do they want to make in the community? There is a group out there that will want to make a difference for children. And this is simply a donor-driven focus statement, if you will, for you all to consider, making the donor also important. All right, so for what it's worth, there's 5 simple steps I want to go through here. We're going to wrap it up. This will take about 10 minutes. Talk about case for support. I'll explain more about what is a case for support, but it really is, why should I give to you in the first place? If I give you money, what are you going to do with it? That's what a case for support supplies. Prospect identification. You may wonder, well, where are these wealthy people in Danville and in the surrounding community? So we'll talk more about that. The awareness event, which is what I said earlier, that we're looking and beginning the planning stages of, that will happen likely in March of 2022 in conjunction with the Week of the Child. And we'll say more about the awareness event in just a moment. And then following the awareness event is the prospect cultivation. And this is a role where you all may come in handy. We're not asking you to ask people for money, but we are asking you to be knowledgeable about the campaign. So if you're standing in line at the grocery store and you're chatting to the person next to you and they happen to see the logo on your t-shirt, know where you work, and they ask you about it, we want you to be able to say, oh yes, that's a campaign that we've launched to, we want you to be knowledgeable, and we want you to be a champion. Being able to speak highly of the organization, if you will, and say positive things about the organization. Not that you don't already, but that's back to what hats do you wear, in partial answer to David when I ask him about what more should I say. So here are the 5 steps we're going to go through. Case for support, the grand vision, and a sound plan. This is an example of a case document. This is a children's garden in Vero Beach, Florida. It says in a nutshell what they're trying to accomplish. It's a trifold. On the left-hand side, you see the mission of the children's garden, the McKee Botanical Garden. And on the right-hand side, you see places for people to sign up in their pledge forms. This is just a snippet or a sample of a case document that we'll be creating for your organization. Here's another one. This is a homeless shelter over on the coast of North Carolina. Okay, it spells out a little bit about their dream for the future and a little bit about the budget. And then most relevant, this is an organization very similar to yours that we worked in in Atlanta and Scottsdale, which is a community a suburb of Atlanta. There's a little over a $2 million campaign for this early childhood learning organization that wanted to get a new facility and expand their services. And that's right in keeping with what may be possible for you all as we're able to attract more dollars to the organization. So the case for support, a grand vision and a sound plan. I'm a potential donor. I don't know anything about you. You hand me your case for support document. You email me your case for support document. I can sit down over a cup of coffee or my Diet Coke, and I can read about you and go, aha, I see who you are. I see what you're trying to achieve, and I see what you need the money for. Case for support, step number one. Step number two, by the way, is identifying these wealthy people that we want to fall in love with your organization. And this is just a quick little visual to let you know when some folks may think because of COVID, is there really a lot of donations going on in this country? It's actually reached the highest level in the history of the US, over $460 billion given last year by donors. And please notice here, one, on the right-hand side, top of the list, faith-based organizations are the top of the donation pyramid, followed by education. And there you all are, right in the middle of that. And also keep in mind over here, on the left-hand side, is that most of the money given philanthropically are by individuals. So the focus that we have is individual donor driven based on, among other things, these dollars. Now, a little more detail and a little closer to home in case you're curious about the wealth set in your own community, all right? So in Pittsylvania County alone, the charitable dollars given last year were over $26 million with the average gift size of $4,745. There's actual donations given by people who live in your community to a wide variety of nonprofits. If you narrow it down, if you will, and looking specifically at donor prospects who give to nonprofits, there's 507 people on the list that we could get today, people that may know nothing about you, that we're going to be looking to reach out to and have them become acquainted with who you are as an organization. And Danville specifically, if we look at just the city limits, there are 73 people with a $500,000 net worth, a home valued above $250,000 who give to nonprofits, who may or may not know anything about you. This just gives you an idea of some of those prospects that we'll be identifying and beginning to reach out to in the awareness event that I'm about to talk to. So if you will, this is step number two, prospect identification. Next, this is where it gets to be fun, and part of what David and I, Ms. Tucker, are working on right now is planning for an awareness event in March of next year tied to the Week of the Child. And there's some key elements about an awareness event. It's creatively themed. It's meant to be fun and inspirational. The persons that are being invited, like those wealthy folks that we just showed you, get an individualized invitation. There's a high-profile host committee. We have the mayor. We have the head of the hospital system. We have the president of the college. We have a variety of people that are well recognized that want to associate their name with the event, if you will, and give us permission to do so. It'll likely be a lunch, if you will. We're talking about a venue right now. And please keep in mind, we see this program being driven largely by the students and their parents. So while Ms. Tucker will have a role to play, perhaps some of you will have a role to play. We'll have a master of ceremonies. We'll likely have a pastor there with some opening prayer. But mainly, this is a program of and by and for the students and the parents. All right. And most importantly, the last bullet point, this is not a fundraising event. It's a turnoff, especially if I know nothing about you and I get an invitation emailed to me or mailed to me, and I immediately think, oh, I know what they're up to. They want some of my money. Well, it's too early. It's too new. We don't know anything about the donor or what they need or want or value. So this is just to invite them to an event, 11:45 to 1:15, with a complimentary lunch and a high-profile host committee, if you will. Couple hundred people in the room or more who come to learn about the organization. So it's fun, it's fast-paced, it's entertaining. And I know you all know there's some students that could do a great job of being part of the presentation. They're on stage. We've got at each table during lunch, perhaps a student and their parent, okay, to talk directly as we have small talk at the conversations at the table during the event. We've got some video, we've got some testimonies that are given. This is the nature of an awareness event. David, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. So that's step number 3. So you all will have a role to play, and then we'd love to have you there. And what we're envisioning in the venue is a facility that may be large enough that as people are arriving to register and to check in and to sit at the table, where we hopefully have table sponsors, is there'll be some classroom activities going off in the periphery. There'll be, somebody seated maybe with children reading to them. There'll be some games and activities going on. So those coming to the awareness event literally step inside of your classroom. They have a little taste of what actually goes on at Just Kids and Legacy Christian Academy on a day in and day out basis. So it's meant to be, again, fun, fast-paced, and educational for people to learn about who you all are. It's an awareness event. Money is not mentioned. Money is not sought. Money is not accepted. And that may be hard because we've got wealthy people that we're inviting to this event, but it's too early in the relationship other than we'd like you to get acquainted. This is your first date with the organization. It's too soon to ask for money nor even accept money. Now, following the event, this is where the prospect cultivation starts. This is a role that David will be playing. This is a role some of the new board members may be playing. This is a follow-up process where we may reach out, first of all, with a thank you for showing up, okay? Phone call by the board member or maybe a table host, an offer to tour the facilities because the venue that we're at is not going to be one of your schools and locations. So it may be a follow-up. Well, yeah, I'd like to learn more about what you all do there. Well, great. We'd love to ask you to an event, love for you to go for a tour. These are all possible ways in which we're going to build the relationship with a potential donor over time. Maybe there'll be a teachers meeting they can sit in on. Maybe there's a meeting of parents. Maybe the students will have a play, a concert, an activity that a potential donor who's now come to your awareness event is interested to learn more about you because they never knew anything about you until they got the invitation and attended the event. Maybe there's a field trip you're going on and they'll go along, okay? Maybe they'll attend a staff or volunteer meeting. These are all invitations. They will all be approved by all of you first, but keep in mind, you may wonder, well, who's that in the back of the room? Well, that's a potential donor that came to our awareness event back in March, and they want to learn a little bit more about what you do in this particular class that you teach or whatever. Maybe they'll come and have lunch with you. Maybe they'll attend a board meeting, or we don't know. But so we've had our first date, the awareness event. Then there's follow-up activities that you as staff and volunteers don't have to do anything here. It's just to alert you that this is back to you being knowledgeable and understanding what's going on as these new folks begin to show up on an occasional basis and visit classrooms, walk around campus, meet the students, go out on the playground and watch what's going on so they can learn more about you. And then the solicitation process. So after a period of time, some of the folks that attend the awareness event will say, thanks, bye-bye. I don't need to know anything more about you. Others will begin to get to know and acquainted with you. And at some point in time, we'll be approaching them for an actual gift. Let me go ahead and get these up on the screen. So this is a chance to go to a donor. We understand that you really love the STEM education program that we have, and you're really focused on science education. And we understand that you're interested in giving a gift. And we've got an opportunity for $50,000 worth of new equipment for our STEM education program. And we'd love to have that be a gift that would come from you. And this is something that you've earned over time. It's earning that right again. That's that solicitation phase, again, that the board members will be doing, Ms. Tucker will be doing, David would be doing, and other volunteers would be involved in, including a campaign cabinet, which may be made up of existing donors. There's nothing more powerful than an existing donor who already writes a check to Just Kids to say to a fellow wealthy individual, get out your checkbook and write them a check. So that's the solicitation phase and the fifth and final step. So just to review briefly and wrap it up, get to your questions. Again, clear, compelling case for support, introduced to donor prospects at a creative awareness event, and then the follow-up nurturing of working on getting them to fall in love with you, like I keep saying, leads to those contributions, those $26 million that are given in your region annually already for you all to attract more of those dollars. So that's the model and what we're covering. Again, we'll have this available for you to view in the future. It'll be presented again, but let me stop at this stage. David, if I may toss it to you, or Ms. Tucker, if any concluding comments you may want to make before we open it up for Q&A and wrap it up and let you all get about your weekend?
I just think we should emphasize that, you know, it is pretty stress-free for the staff. You know, we've got the core group of staff that's going to be handling the event itself, and that's going to be Ms. Mangum and Miss Ann and Tammy and myself and a couple of other people, Miss Cheney. So it's pretty pain-free for most of you. It's just you know, just to be aware that it's going on, and if a parent comes up to you and asks you about it, or if anybody comes up and asks you about it, you'll know it's happening, and you'll know about it and be able to be supportive of it and help them to understand what
Absolutely.
it's about.
And your help along the way, being knowledgeable and being champions as we work, for example, on the case for support, we may get a final draft. And if you're interested, we would submit it to you and say, please read it over. Do you like it? Does it make sense? Is it accurate? Is it complete? So we'd love to get the input. You all live it daily. You're there, hands-on, obviously doing the work, doing the teaching, caring for the kids. And so we'd love to know if we encapsulate what you all do in this case for support document. It might be an opportunity. We're not requiring that of you, but we're simply wanting to include you wherever possible, wherever you want to be engaged. But keep in mind, at the end of the day, this is really about you and the kids. More resources means you can do more for the kids. More resources means you've got a larger budget to be able to get more equipment, more materials to really do an even better job than you're already doing. So David, did I leave anything out? Anything you thought I ought to cover here in our limited time together?
I think you did an excellent job, and you know, just I think you've done well explaining to the staff their involvement and their requirements, and I think it's been great.
Great. Let me go back to this for a moment and just ask one other favor, because you all don't know me from Adam. We're just getting acquainted. I'm just a face in a little tiny Zoom screen, if you will, much like the audience I see there. We need your help. We need your support. We need your critical analysis. So hopefully you feel trusting enough of this process to know it's meant to be inclusive. Okay. And as you have questions, concerns, worries, anxieties about what you're hearing, please bring them to somebody's attention. Please let David know or Miss Tucker know, well, what about this? Have you thought about that? Well, I just heard about this. Well, do you know they're doing that? Let us know. You're the eyes and the ears in the community. And so if there are any questions, things that are perhaps not going to be raised today, because for whatever reason, people tend not to raise their hands in groups, or you want to get out of there and go home, please don't keep it to yourself. We need you. It's an all hands on deck responsibility here. Be knowledgeable and be a champion. And that's what we're helping you. Asking for your help for here. This is the model. Here are the steps. Let me be quiet again and find out from all of you that are sitting there looking at me. I see the faces and you all staring, some of you taking notes. Thank you very much. What questions, anything I can clarify today, please? This is your opportunity.
John, they're all saying that you explained it very well.
All right. So I want to ask then a question of the audience, if I may here, and I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing and ask you all, what is the one for anybody? And I'm seeing 4 people in the chairs, and I assume David and Ms. Tucker there. So
Yes.
if you were to leave here, get on your phone on the way home, and somebody says, well, you're running a little late. What was going on? Well, I was at this meeting after school, and I heard about, oh, really? A fundraising campaign? Well, what is it that you got most excited about, and what you heard, what would you say? What's the one thing you just heard me discuss that excites you the most, interests you the most about what we're planning? And I would like to call on the folks in the audience first, and perhaps Ms. Tucker, you'll take the lead. I know you. Would you call on somebody and see, because I know it's a bright group, they may be a little shy, but what's the one thing you just heard that excites you most about what we're planning?
I'm really glad to answer that. It's the fact that there's people around you that actually have the money that they give. We know.
I didn't know that.
Okay, and
Did
I'll
you
need
hear
that
that,
repeated.
John?
I didn't hear that very well. Could, yeah, Ms. Tucker or David,
Okay.
could you, go ahead.
Tammy said that she was able to hear that there were people in the area that could donate. They did not know those numbers. They did not know that was available. And then Linda said the same thing.
Great. Yeah, that's a lot. And that's kind of an eye opener. Thank you for being honest with that. A lot of folks will say, well, there's not a whole lot of wealth. We're not a big city. We don't have a lot of really high end. There's a lot of wealth. And by the way, that number is rather conservative. The 26 million, those comes from IRS tax records of people who itemize on their tax returns. Now, each of you probably donate and give at your place of worship or Salvation Army, and you don't itemize. So the number is even higher for informal giving in the Danville region. So there's a lot of wealth that's being given statewide, certainly in Danville and through places of worship in particular. So, but thanks for bringing that up. And that's exactly it. Knowledgeable. When people say, oh, you're trying to raise money. What? This is a poor community. We don't have any wealth here. Oh, yes, we do. So, and you can throw the consultant under the bus. Well, ask David. He'll tell you what the consultant said, and we'll get you this PowerPoint if that will be helpful. Thank you. You're talking on the phone on your way home here in just a moment, and somebody says, well, what excited you most about what you heard or what you learned? What else would you say? Other answers to the question about what excites you the most?
Possibility of getting some money.
Yeah.
Mary, that's Mary Medley. She said the possibility of getting some money.
Yes. Mary. Oh, that's Mary. The Mary you told me about, the one you warned me about. I mean, I'm just Mary, I'm just teasing. Mary, this is our first date, but hopefully as we get acquainted over the coming weeks, we'll become better friends. So thanks. The possibility of getting some money. Yeah. And anybody else? So this may be one more example, something you got excited about and what you just heard. Surprised by the amount of wealth, the possibility of getting more money into the school, into the system, all the resources that you all could fund further.
The opportunity for other donors to participate with Just Kids so they can see like firsthand what they're donating to and why.
Understood. And keep in mind,
Thank you, Maria.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the wealthy today have a big problem. And this is what I asked earlier. Raise your hand if you like to ask people for money. Okay. Raise your hand if you like to help people solve their problems. Raise your hand if you like to help people solve the problem. See, what I'm serious about this because wealthy donor research is pretty clear on this. What wealthy donors fear the most is I'm going to give you $10,000, $100,000, $1 million, and you're going to waste it. That's what they fear the most. And there's lots of examples all over the news. I'll stop on this note. So what they value most is having a credible organization that has a proven track record, that is well run, that's well managed, that produced, in this case, well-educated children that go on to become successful adults. That's what they're looking for. They're going to give away some of their money every year to somebody, and many of them are struggling. And their problem is, who do I give it to? And so for you all to build that relationship over time, where they learn who you are, what you're about, your credentials, your awards, the successes you have, and keep in mind that awareness event where they're at a table with a parent and their 10-year-old child who's precocious and outspoken and loves you all and is talking about their experience, that's going to become infectious for that donor. They'll remember that first experience at the table. Oh yeah, I met this child. She was just full of energy and vim and vigor about the school. That's what we're working on building, that connection for people to feel trusting and safe in you as an organization. So when they cut you a check, you've helped them solve a problem. So on that note, Ms. Tucker, David, anything else for today? I know it's going on 7 minutes after 4. Everybody wants to go home and have a good weekend, but anything I left out?
I think you did a great job of summing it all up, and I think we're all excited about getting this done and really making people aware of who we are and what we do.
Very good, thank you. And this is basically the second step. We've just gotten started, been doing lots of planning and dialoguing. I've been on site and visited your campus. You may not know that. Step number 2 was what we're starting today. I'll have the link to this video recording, and I'll have a PDF of the handouts of the PowerPoint emailed to you, David, Ms. Tucker, by Monday, so you can share it in case anybody here wants to share it with anybody else. It's designed for you. We made it for you, so we'd love to be able to share the wealth. Good luck. God bless. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, John.
Bye, all.
All right. Thanks, Maria.